Hello, 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 and welcome. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to stop hiding and finally start winning with none other than the amazing Marie Pepe, who just so happens to be a confidence coach, online visibility expert, number one best-selling author, and also a motivational speaker. Now, before I continue, just in case there are some of you who are coming across me for the first time, perhaps we haven't met before, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself, okay? So, my name is Nina Dafe, and I am the founder and the editor of the Far Above Rubies Collection.com, where I help Christian women to know their worth, their power, and their purpose, so that they may speak up, step out, and shine as the awesome women of God that He created them to be. And if that's something that sounds like your cup of tea, right up your street, then definitely consider hitting the subscribe button below, okay? Now, you also want to stick around because by the end of this video, not only are you going to kind of get to know the common blocks to being visible, especially online, walking in purpose, etc., you are going to know how to avoid them. You're also going to learn how to actually overcome life's obstacles through faith, as well as lots of other kind of turns and twists that this conversation took, like how to become an author and much more, okay? This is a very juicy episode. Lisa Marie is full of great wisdom, so as I said, you are going to want to stick around. But before I get into all the meat and potatoes of all of that, I'm going to do a very quick introduction to Lisa Marie, and then we'll get right into it, okay? So, Lisa Marie Pepe is the confidence coach and online visibility expert for passionate, heart-centered women entrepreneurs, a number one international best-selling author of The Art of Unlearning, top expert share conscious choices for empowered living, and a motivational speaker. Trained at the graduate level in both education and clinical psychology, and with over 3 years of experience as a successful virtual assistant and social media manager, Lisa Marie empowers her clients to fully embrace their unique gifts and talents by providing them with the skills that they need to develop rock-solid confidence and become vibrantly visible online. She has been featured in the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, YFS, and several other noteworthy publications. Lisa Marie has also appeared as a special guest expert on over 40 international telesummits and has been interviewed on dozens of highly regarded podcasts such as The Stellar Life, The Big Movement, and Women in Leadership. And so without any further ado, we are going to go straight into the interview. Enjoy! Hey, Lisa Marie, how are you doing?
Hello, Nina. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I really cannot complain. I want to thank you so much for
Oh, of
joining
course.
me, being here. It's honestly such an honor. So I've been really excited about this.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really sweet of you to say that. Yeah, no, this is great. This is exciting and fun, and I love doing interviews. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, perfect. And as I've already kind of introduced you, but just in your own words, if you could just, let our awesome audience know who you are and all the wonderfulness that you do.
Sure, thank you. So, I mean, like you said, you have introduced me, but
Mhm.
for those of you who are wondering, what do I really do? I essentially work with heart-centered women entrepreneurs who
Mhm.
have a service-based business and who are truly passionate about making a massive impact in the world.
Mm.
I help those women to just eradicate the fear and the self-sabotage that goes on within our own mind from time to time. And
Mm.
so we build a confidence, right? Like a rock solid confidence, I like to call it.
Yeah,
And then once we get to that level where the person, because you have to treat the person first, right? Help the human being, right? And
absolutely.
then once that person is feeling confident and really good about themselves and just ready, then we start talking about visibility and we start
Mm.
doing visibility strategies. And so I teach women, once they've become confident, how to then put themselves out there on social media.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It sounds absolutely amazing and also so rewarding as well, you know?
It is. And the reason why I love doing both of those things, and it's not to
Mm,
say that I don't have clients that need one a whole lot more versus the other,
mm.
but I really love combining the psychology piece and the
Yeah.
mindset work with the actual practical hands-on technique,
Hmm.
because you kind of need both in tandem. And I just happen to be blessed enough that I have a background in psychology and
Ah.
that I picked up very quickly on how to get visible and how to build an audience online. And that
Mm.
was seriously just serendipity. I mean, I got thrown into this, right? And we may or may not get to that as to how I got thrown into all of this online entrepreneurship.
Mm.
But I was blessed in that I was able to pick it up very quickly and then even create my own proprietary processes where I was doing things without even being aware that they were actual, like, workable,
Strategies and stuff.
tangible
Yeah.
strategies. Yeah. And so while I was doing confidence coaching, people started approaching me and asking me to do and show them how to be as visible as I was. That's sort of where
Amazing.
that second piece
But
kind of came in.
yeah, because I've come across, visibility coaches and confidence coaches. It's very rare actually that I've seen the two crossover. Although to me it makes a lot of sense that they should and that they
Right.
would. Like normally people do one thing and not the other. So how did you? I was actually gonna ask that. How did your journey, start? How has your faith
Yeah.
gone into all of this?
Wow. Okay. So I don't want to take you all the way back. We might be here, a couple hours, but
No, cool.
I essentially, back in 2011, I
Mm.
was working as a licensed massage therapist.
Mm.
I had previously gone to graduate school twice, and I graduated from both programs. So I had a master's in teaching. I had a master's in psychology. That was my second master's degree.
Mm.
And I happened to take a position right out of graduate school. I think I was like 25, two
Mm.
master's degrees. That's another whole story. Just
Wow, yeah.
being a perfectionist, being an overachiever my whole life. And by the time I graduated, I think I was about 25, 26 with my second master's.
Wow.
And I could feel myself burning out. Like
Mm.
I could feel the anxiety creeping in. I could feel the just the lack of energy, the lack of life, right, that I was
Yeah.
feeling. And I started to get, depressed and things like that. Long and short of it, I thought taking a position in the field would actually help me to feel better.
Mm.
And now looking back, I realized that I was really jamming a square peg into a round
Round
hole.
hole.
Um,
Yeah.
I took a job in an alcohol and detox unit, which is
Okay.
like at the front lines of actually helping individuals with addiction.
Mm.
And I just, it was so heart wrenching for me. And I didn't know how to turn it off though.
Mm.
So it started to affect me on a very personal level.
Sure.
And I wound up at that point just burnt out completely. And I like to talk of that as just being completely bankrupt of, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I felt bankrupt. I
Yeah.
felt like I couldn't go another day
Mm.
if I was going to stay in that environment because it was that difficult for me.
Sure.
And so I resigned from there and I did some really deep, some deep work on myself, hired a
Mm.
couple of professionals, people that I needed in my life to help me.
Mm.
And from there, um, transitioned back and really felt great about doing massage therapy. So here I am, 2011. Everything's great. I'm feeling really confident
Mm.
again. I'm feeling like this is what I need to be doing. I was close to 30 at that point.
Mhm.
And just, like I said, I was full of life, full of energy again. And I got into an automobile accident.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, driving home one night. And, I thought I was fine the first couple of minutes. I was like,
Mm.
oh, totally fine. Like yeah, sure, okay, I banged my neck, I banged my shoulder, I'm fine, I'm tough, I'm
Mm-hmm.
strong, all that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mind you, the adrenaline's like running
Yes.
on high volume. So of course, I get up the next day and I'm like, whoa, can't move,
Ooh.
don't know what's happening. Maybe I should have gone to the
God,
hospital.
so yeah.
And from there, there was like this, it was like the next, the next chapter, but this time I was going downhill again, right? So what went from being, what was diagnosed as a cervical sprain, right? Whiplash, that kind of thing. It led to a series of events where I actually was forced to resign
Oh,
from
wow.
my position where I was working at a day spa as a massage therapist, and I had just opened my own practice. So I had to close that as well.
Wow.
So here I was again, like 32 years old and completely lost. Just like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't understand this. I've got all these degrees, but I'm terrified to do that work because I know what it
Mm.
did to me emotionally.
Sure.
Then I finally found this physical kind of job where I was helping people to heal, and I
Mm.
couldn't do that anymore. And so the next few years were very turbulent. They were just a time of me kind of hiding out, really, just hiding out in the world.
Mm.
And you know, I spent the next couple of years taking really crappy jobs. And
Mm.
when I say crappy, I mean crappy. I mean jobs that are very demeaning jobs. I took a job as a telemarketer and I was paid like $8.50 an hour or something.
Yeah.
And here I was, two master's degrees, licensed massage therapist, the whole nine. And I'm like hiding out in an office building in the middle of nowhere,
Mm.
trying to sell windows and doors to people
Yeah.
that I didn't know and really, quite frankly, didn't care to sell them,
Yeah.
these products. And I know now, looking back, that that was me creating a reality which was nothing more than a mere projection of how I felt internally.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's clear because I think back on that time and I look back on myself at that time, and I was this timid, shy, scared, wounded little girl,
Mm.
right? And I didn't think I deserved any better.
Mm.
And so I dealt with that kind of a thing for a couple of years. I
Mm-hmm.
actually got fired from my telemarketing job.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like your self-esteem isn't already in the toilet.
Right. Now
Then
it's like
yeah,
being kicked while you're down, you know?
exactly. And I remember at that time feeling so down about myself and feeling like I was such a loser and I was so pathetic. And that was the dialogue I was having with my head. So of
Mm-hmm.
course I would continue to repeat those patterns. So
Yes.
I went to another job that was just again, it was all like retail based or it was sales
Mm.
or nothing wrong with that if you love doing that. But I was
Yeah.
in these positions where, I wasn't given full-time hours. I had no health insurance, no
Mm.
benefits, working nights, working weekends, all of
Yeah. Mm.
and I was still battling the physical symptoms,
Oh,
which
wow.
never healed.
And I think especially with retail and stuff like that, those can be quite physical. So that would have then fed into the
Yeah,
cycle as well of how bad you were feeling as well.
exactly. So then I found
Gosh.
myself like working in stores again or doing these other things that they're
Yeah.
labor intensive. And I'm like, I can't stand on my feet. I just can't
Oh.
do it because I came to find out after trying to get a second MRI since that accident
Mm.
that I had actually torn some cartilage in
Oh.
my left shoulder. And I kept telling the doctors that were overseeing my care, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. But for whatever reason, and I do believe a lot of it had to do with, the individual who hit me, we had to go with their insurance because it just very complicated. And long and short of it, I went around with this chronic discomfort for almost 3 years before
Wow.
I got the confirmation that I was seeking.
Gosh.
And at that point, it was okay, well, now we need to operate
Hmm.
because it's so damaged, it's so bad. How did somebody not pick up on this, right?
Oh
That
my
kind of thing.
gosh. Wow.
So I was dealing with that as well for 3 years. So I was pretty miserable, like physically, emotionally, spiritually. I never felt bankrupt again, and I still
Mm.
have never felt bankrupt again,
Mm.
which is a blessing, because I
Yes.
honestly believe had I not clung onto God during those most trying years,
Mm.
I know that I probably wouldn't even be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, at least, thank God, yes, I
Mm.
felt depressed, and yes, I
Yeah.
felt, but I remained hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I always had. Even when I was working these really bad jobs, even when I was hurting, even when I knew that this was not my landing, this was not the end
Yes.
all be all of who I
Yeah.
was going to be, I would take a pen and I would just write words like on my hand. I would just write like hope.
Mm.
I would just write out love. I'd write out, God loves me.
Mm.
And believe it or not, it was those little things that weren't so
Mm.
little that actually
Mm.
carried me from pothole to pothole, right? And
That's
so that I didn't have to
amazing.
go down, right? It's
Yeah.
like someone, that was the bridge. That was
Yeah.
actually the bridge between me being completely depressed, completely wounded,
Mm.
feeling awful, feeling like a victim,
Mm.
to gradually progressing my way back in where I felt competent and confident and
Wow.
courageous and who I am today.
Yeah.
And so that's why I tell people all the time, no matter who I'm working with or what their job is or what their career path is, I don't care if you're only given a cubicle.
Mm.
I mean, if and that's it. That's all we had when I was doing telemarketing. It was not an office. It wasn't
Mm.
a space for us. It was take a chair and a cubicle while you're here. Like there
Yeah.
was no assigned seating. Nothing personal about it.
Right.
And I literally would take a pen and just write on my hand positive words. I'd just keep tracing it over and over again, almost like a tattoo, right? And if that
Yeah. It's
again,
funny you said that. That's what I had in my head. Yeah.
that's exactly what I did,
Yeah.
right? And so I think about that, and I think about how important it really was for me to bridge that,
Sure.
right? Because at least it got my mind somewhere else
Mm.
rather than believing that that's where I was going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So I told you I didn't want to make this too long, but I do
No,
feel like
it's good.
you need the
Yeah,
context. Yeah, you need the
absolutely.
context of
And
it.
I think also what it is too is that people can sometimes see the end product of where you are and all that you've
Yeah.
done, and having heard your bio and all of that sort of stuff, and go, oh well, she's got it cushy, she's great. But I love to go deep into. That's why I asked the question about the journey,
Okay,
because
great,
it's
great. Yeah,
so
I'm an
important.
open book, and I'm
Yeah,
happy to share because I know that those things, which at the time felt like hell and
yeah,
felt like, they were just awful. I know now that they were really blessings in disguise, and it was part of a growth and part of a journey for me
absolutely.
that I would not be doing what I do right now had I not gone through those things.
Mm.
So to get back to where I was,
Mhm.
it's about 2 years after the accident. I'm still kind of bouncing around and, not being treated medically or anything like that. And I take a job at a health club,
Mm.
and it wasn't the best of jobs, but it was a step up. Okay. So I at least got to interact with more people, and, I'm an extrovert. I don't belong behind a tapestry with a
Mhm.
phone and a call log. It's just not who I am.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I take this job at a gym fitness center, and I stayed there for about 8 months. It was better than, right? So
Yeah.
each time I went up, I was like, well, it's better than, right?
Mhm.
And I always cared about people. That part of me never changed. No matter what I was going through, I was always reaching out. I would volunteer. I would do things to get out of my own head and go help other people.
Mhm.
So I got to know one of the women who was a member at that gym. I got to know her very well. And we started talking. She'd come in. I'd say, "Hey, how are you today? How's it going?" So, you get to know these frequent patrons over time. Well, this one particular woman had gotten to know me well. She was a social worker. She knew that I had a background in psychology. She knew that, I'd had this accident and now I was kind of,
Mm.
not really sure what I was doing with my life.
Mm.
And one night after work, I was in the ladies' restroom and I was cleaning out the trash receptacles
Yeah.
in the ladies' restroom because that was part of my job description. So, yes, was it a step up? Well, I guess, but was it really?
Mm. Mm.
At the end of the night, that was part of the duty, right? It was part of the, put the gloves on, go in, clean it up, make sure it looks okay for the person who's opening tomorrow, that kind of thing. And so there I was, not even really thinking much, just probably thinking on autopilot, something else. And she meets me in there and she says to me, she says, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure, what is it?" And she said, "What are you doing?" And I kind of looked at her and I just said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I'm cleaning up the bathroom." And she was like, "No, what are you doing?" And again, I looked at her. I was like, and I was being facetious actually. I was a little snarky. And I said, "Well, I'm emptying trash. Do you want a pair of gloves? Do you want to help? Like what is going on, right?" So, and I've told this story a million times, but it's really that powerful. She got real silent, and then the third time, she just said to me, "I don't mean what are you doing right now, emptying trash." She said, "I mean, what are you doing with your life?" And you can imagine it was like, "Come again? What? What did you just ask me? What?" And I mean, literally, my eyes were just like, I was deer in the headlights. I was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have an answer. And she said to me, "I don't want to overstep my bounds." She said, "But I, I don't understand what you're doing here." She said, what are you doing here? Working for minimum wage?" She said, "Doing a position that, quite frankly, anyone who was in high school could do, making minimum wage and hiding."
Mm.
She said, "What are you doing?"
Mm.
And it was the first time in almost 3 years since that accident that someone had the courage to call me out
Yes.
on my own BS.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I had created the story
Mm.
of why it was okay for me to
Mm.
have part-time jobs that didn't really give me anything of substance.
Mm.
I was afraid,
Yeah.
right? And I'll tell you, that was the moment that I really feel like my soul just opened up,
Yeah.
and in that light, that flame that was within, because I really believe that every human soul has a flame,
Yeah.
is born with a candle, has this flame. And I feel as though the experiences over time, the negativity that happens to us, every time we get beat down, that candle, the light goes dimmer and dimmer and dimmer.
Yes.
And mine was definitely, if you can picture this as a candle, like, when it's just like that fiery red tip,
Yeah.
like it's ready to go out,
Mhm.
but it's not out yet. I
Yes.
feel like that's where I was for about three
Mm.
years.
Mm.
And the moment she said that to me, it was like a flood of just like beautiful white, bright light, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I said to her, "Wow." I said, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know. And she said something to the effect of, I think you really need to sit down and figure it out. And she said, because this is not where you belong. And she said, I've seen you. You love people and you're good at helping people.
Mm.
She said, there's people that work here and they take it as just a job.
Mm.
They don't necessarily go out of their way
Mm-hmm.
to listen to the people who are here. Because I'm a listener.
Yeah.
When I ask somebody, how was your day? I don't want them just to say fine and keep walking. I want to know, how was your day?
Mm-hmm.
And so, granted, I mean, the people I worked with were fine. Like, I have nothing against them and stuff, but they really weren't. A lot of them were younger. They were in high school. They were in their first year of college. And so they were, a little bit more, on the sort of, naive side of things and just took it for what it was, which there's nothing wrong with.
Yeah.
But for me, I truly did want to know. I wanted to know about the people I was servicing, day in and day out. And that day, when I got off shift and got in my car, unlike the year previous where I got in the car after being fired, where I berated myself, this time around, I actually looked at myself in the mirror and I said, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing, you silly girl, And I was definitely afraid. I was afraid because all those old fears start popping up. Oh my God, what if you try this? What if you try that? What if this doesn't work?
Yeah.
How are you ever even going to do that? You've been away from the
Mm-hmm.
professional scene for so long. And I just sat with it and I trusted God. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was going to be okay.
Mm.
And then that was in 2013. Moving towards the end of 2013. And I wound up getting a really great job in a public school because I had hired a resume writer who literally did a transitional resume.
Okay.
So it explained my gaps, right? Of like being, like working as a licensed clinician to like selling shoes to selling windows and then back again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, I invested in myself. I had to do that. Not just the mind, but in the actual things I needed to produce as well in order to get to that next level.
Yeah.
That summer, it became my full-time job to look for a position in education. And by like the third week of August, I had 3 different offers, chose to go with this one school district, and I really loved what I was doing, except my shoulder and my neck never healed. So I still was dealing with all of that in spite of all the other stuff. I was dealing with that. So now I'm back in the education system. I've got really great health care. I get a good doctor. He says, go in, get the MRI. I don't know why these people are telling you can't have a second MRI. It was 3 years ago. I'm sending you for an MRI. Calls me up and he says, well, I've got good news and I've got news. And he said, well, good news is you're not crazy. Because, there were doctors out there who were like, oh, it's all in your head.
Sure.
We looked at your x-rays. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was an athlete my whole life. I know what my body is capable of doing and not doing. I know when it hurts and when it doesn't. So anyway, I could write a book just about that. But for the purposes of this interview, essentially what wound up happening was I was told I had a tear in the cartilage in my left shoulder. I knew all along, but unfortunately it had gotten pretty bad because I had waited so long, or I was forced to wait so long.
I was going to say, that wasn't you.
That was not me. I would have had it fixed right away because I was too full of life and ready to go and ready to heal and let's go, And he says to me, and you're going to have surgery.
No.
And I said, well, all right, what else am I going to do? And So long and short of it, here we are now, 2014. This is where it gets good. This is how I went up in online entrepreneurship. I go in January of 2014, have this operation that I am under the impression is going to be an arthroscopic repair,
Right.
which means minimally invasive, not going to be a big deal. You're going to
Yeah.
be fine. You're going to wake up. It's going to be a hard recovery, no doubt about it, but you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in again, just trusting God. I'm like, this is good. I'm fine. We got this. I wake up and there's, you know, a large, incision. There's all this other stuff that happened in the course of the surgery that neither I nor my surgeon anticipated. So it wound up being a very complicated
Right.
surgery that required a minimum of being in a sling for 6 weeks, like unable to even move it for 6 weeks.
Right.
And the recovery for that it was awful. I'm not gonna lie, it was awful. I had to stay out of work, even though I tried to go back. I got in trouble by HR
Oh.
because I snuck back in. I snuck back in. It was like 3 weeks after surgery, and I still had my arm in a sling, and I still couldn't move. I couldn't even dress myself. Like, I
Oh.
still had my mom dressing me before I went to work.
Yeah.
And I get there, and HR calls, and they're like, "Hello, Miss Pepe," and I'm like, "Sure, yes, hello." And they said to me, "You're not released from your physician to be here at the school, are you?" And I said, well, yeah, he gave me like a temporary, he said I could just come in and do like light desk work. And they were like, "Do you mean the one that he sent that said you're only allowed to sit all day long? That's it." He said, "You can't pass in the hallway with the students. You can't take the stairs.
Oh.
You can't lift more than a pound in each hand." Like, he gave me such strict guidelines that they were just like, "I'm sorry." They were like, "You're going to have to go home and heal."
Yeah.
So this time around, right, because here I was again, right, the rug gets ripped out from underneath me. So I'm like, you know what, God, I don't like it, right? I had a conversation with them. I said, I don't like it, but I'll do it because I know that's what I need to do. So there I was, middle of the winter, 2014, out of work, no paycheck because I was only there for 1 year, right? So didn't earn any of the, extra goodies that come with,
Sure.
long-term contracts. And I thought to myself, let me start spreading some positivity online
Mm.
because that's what I needed,
Yeah.
right? I needed to laugh. I needed to read positive affirmations. I needed to surround myself with positive people. It was my only outlet. I couldn't drive. I could, you know, and in doing that, I discovered this whole new side of coaching, life coaching, wellness coaching, and I mean, lo and behold, now, I mean, there's so many different varieties and things that people do, but that's where I started. I started in the spring of 2014.
Mm.
I was still anticipating going back to work
Mm-hmm.
in September of 2014.
Mm.
And I held out to the very last minute I possibly could. It was like 3 days before school. And I called and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to hand in my resignation effective immediately. I just can't do this
Mm.
physically," because I was still really struggling physically. But I had a purpose, and that purpose was greater than myself.
Yeah.
And once I had that, and once I found that, I just went in like head first and I just absorbed everything I possibly could. I looked back on my training and my natural ability to be a good listener and to help people heal and to help others heal themselves even. And that's how I wound up where I am today.
That is amazing. That is so amazing. And I think it's like one of the things that I always kind of say about purpose is that it's extremely disruptive. I think so many people have this idea that, purpose is like this open heaven Zen thing, and it's always fabulous and fantastic because that's what we're sold in the movies and stuff, right? But it
Yeah,
rarely ever is. Like it comes like this. It comes through the trials, it comes through the tribulations, it comes
it
through
does.
the shaking up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I realize now, even if or even when, events happen now that sort of catch me off guard and I'm a little, scared of something,
Yeah.
or I'm more willing to face it head on, and I'm more willing to reach out. Um, God has obviously become such an integral part of my life now. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't wake up one day without saying thank you. Those are the first words that
Absolutely.
come out of my mouth when I put my first foot down and my second foot down. It's like,
Mm.
thank you. I just look up and it's like, God. And I start my day that way every single morning. And is it all rainbows and sunshine all the time? No.
Yeah.
But my faith has increased, my faith has strengthened, and I'm not as afraid to face my own things, my
Mm.
own inner gremlins, or my own little voices sometimes that tell me, oh, that's not a great idea, or
Absolutely.
you're not going to do this well, or I'm much more equipped now at just dealing with it and
Yes.
kind of eradicating the bull crap and the fear and all the ego stuff, right? It's like, nope, not listening to that today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've grown tremendously and I
Amazing.
love what I do. I
Yeah.
love what I do.
Yeah. Which must be such a relief when you're comparing it to where you were coming from, where you didn't always love what you were doing, or it was just getting by or hiding, and
Yeah, like survival mode.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. When you're in survival mode, you then can't be creative. You can't be truly yourself,
Right,
So, yeah.
right.
And do you take, your clients and the people that you work with, through the same, I guess, sort of like confidence stuff that you went through? What are some of the steps that you kind of,
I do actually.
yeah.
Yeah, I do because again, people say to me, "How did you make that change so fast?"
Mm,
Right? Here you were just working these little minimum wage jobs and
yeah.
and that's kind of how we knew you, and now all of a sudden you're like back in a profession, you're doing
Right.
this, you're doing that. And when I tell you I had to do a 180, I had to do a 180. I mean, when I was working at the gym and when I was working as a telemarketer, I was working night hours most of the time. So it was like a 3 to 11 or a 4 to 10 or, a shift
Mm,
like that.
mm,
And so my whole eating pattern, my whole sleeping pattern, everything was total night owl. Get up at like 10 a.m., go to the gym and then maybe go to work. That, I
mm,
mean, that was my day, but I'd go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in
mm,
the morning. And all of a sudden I had all these job offers and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right. That was a big fear of mine. I'm like,
mm.
I have not woken up at 6 a.m. for like the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do that. I was
Yeah.
legitimately scared. But again, I trusted in God and I said, God, you just show me the way because there is a way to do this.
Yeah.
And I found like a naturopath I started working with.
Mm,
And we just discussed some of the changes I needed to make. And within about 3 weeks' time, just using like a melatonin supplement and some various like mindfulness based sort of meditative
yeah.
transitions, I got my sleeping pattern pretty much under control in about 3 weeks. And
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's not to say it was perfect because there
Yeah.
were times certainly when it was close to 11 p.m. and I knew I should have already been in bed at 10, that kind of thing. But I had to make a lot of changes and they all had to start here.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
had to start here. And so I literally made a list of the things that I know I needed to change in order to feel at my optimal level.
Wow.
And that's how I did it. And I just started crossing them off one at a time.
That's powerful.
Transitional resume, right?
Mm.
Because that was my biggest fear. How I know how to write a resume. I know how to
Mm-hmm.
write. I even had a CV at one point.
Yeah.
How do I hand that to somebody and explain for
The
this
gaps.
huge gap of
Mm.
professional experience?
Mm.
Okay, so I had to use my brain, find somebody who can actually do this because that's their forte.
Sure.
And that interview, I mean, that resume that gentleman wrote, it was worth $1 million because
Mm.
I got literally, I think I had 5 interviews and I got 4 job offers.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, that was his craft. He knew how to do it. So I employed the people that needed to be employed. I even hired a therapist. At the time, I probably would have hired a coach had I known about coaching.
Yeah.
But I got in touch with a therapist. I said, look, I really need some help with this transition. Can you help me? Worked with a therapist for a few months. I did everything that I knew how to do, but the biggest thing for me was learning how to change my internal dialogue.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
was the biggest thing for me
Yeah.
because I realized that I had stacked so much negativity and so many negative thoughts
Yeah.
about myself over those past few years,
Mm-hmm.
and things that I truly was holding on to that I needed to forgive and forgive myself, forgive the people who had hurt me.
Mm.
And that's really where the transformation happened. It really was. It was a conscientious decision to say, I'm not going to let that person occupy my brain space anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
instead, I'm going to do this,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or instead, I'm going to choose not to be around X, Y, and Z. Like, I had to make choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There
So,
was so many nuggets in that. Doing what you can, writing a list of all the things that need to change, acting on it, what's not in your power to do, seeking the help, whether it's a coach, someone to speak to, someone who actually is,
right.
there was lots in that. And I love also what you talked about in terms of the self-care elements as well, because I think that that's a part that most of us ignore, maybe because we don't have the confidence to do it, or just for fear of being thought of as selfish, for example,
Yeah.
not wanting to hurt others by distancing or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Yeah, I do understand 1,000%, and that is something that I continually learn.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not fully evolved. There's always room for growth, and that is one area that even most recently I found had just kind of flared up because I was allowing
Mm.
what other people had said, or even people within my own family, just a couple of little snarky remarks here and there and things that happen. And if you don't really address it in a way that's healthy and you feel like you're
Yes.
stuffing it down or you're
Yeah.
just trying to be tough, and or you get angry and you're reacting instead of responding.
Yes.
And my body, I was just telling you this, my body kind of went
Mm.
into this like flare of like inflammation, and I really didn't feel good for several weeks
Sure.
until I made the decision that nope, I needed to set firmer boundaries with certain
Mm.
people. I needed
Mm.
to take time for me to
Yeah.
heal.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think I'm getting better at, you know?
Yeah.
But as you know, the lessons will always repeat themselves until we've mastered
And
it.
yeah, so true. I have personally experienced that.
Yes.
Yes, very, very true. Thinking more about like, your work, online visibility, confidence coaching, what do you find are, I guess, the biggest blocks, when it comes to people like moving forward, like in their purpose? And I guess what are some of the steps that they can kind of take to avoid it?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people that I've worked with, and again, including myself in all of this, a lot of the women I've worked with are perfectionists.
Mm. Yeah.
And they always have the erroneous belief that their best will not be good enough.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's what I struggled with for
Mm.
years, which is why I was always trying to throw myself in and go all out and be perfect at everything I did.
Sure.
And that is a really self damning, self damaging, self sabotaging behavior
Yes.
because you will never get it perfect. And you may even start to use it as an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's not ready yet. I have to
Mm-hmm.
work on it some more.
Mm-hmm.
I have to work on more clarity. I have to work on more structure. I have to work on my business model. I have to work on you're always going to be working on, okay? We're not finished products. We're meant to grow and be enlightened and go up that hierarchy of,
Absolutely.
self-actualization. And my best advice is for people really to start with declaring what it is they truly want for themselves in their life, not what they think they're deserving of, or
Mm-hmm.
they feel that because they were mistreated they don't deserve to have these things. Just tell me, in an ideal world,
Mm-hmm.
and barring no other kinds of afflictions,
Yeah.
where would you be? What would you be doing? Like,
Mm.
how would you enjoy your time? What would really bring you, I always ask people what lights them up, right? Like, what would light you up, right? If you, in a perfect world, right? No debt, no extra baggage, nothing attached, nothing emotional bothering you. And when you can really identify that point or that part of yourself, it's time then to really start doing the work to get there,
Yeah.
because it can be done.
Mm.
And I'd say the second biggest thing, aside from kind of figuring out who you want to be in the world, is definitely about forgiveness.
Mm.
And it's about self forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's the hardest one, I find.
And
So a
the
lot of,
one that people I think ignore the most. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, lots of folks walking around with shame, guilt,
Yeah.
fear, hostility, self hatred
Absolutely.
because of whatever.
Yeah.
Some mistake they made when they were
Yeah.
younger, something they may have, not felt great about afterward.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because someone told them that they were a certain way, even if they
Mm-hmm.
weren't. And that's the thing. A lot of people walking around with that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people across the world,
Yeah.
worldwide. It's not,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not isolated to one country, one
No.
culture, one race.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, just really understanding that change is possible when you're willing to do the work, and when you're willing to get clear, and you're willing to put in the time and the energy, and you're willing to do the forgiveness work.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be the first one to tell people it's not easy. That work is not easy. It will, I shouldn't say it will, it can
Mm.
make you feel like you've been ripped wide open,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
all your wounds are just exposed and hanging out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I personally went through this even just the last few weeks. I was
Mm.
telling you, I was avoiding, certain situations that had happened with a family member and things like that. And it was time for me to get honest. Was
Yeah.
I really angry? Yeah, I really was angry. Was I really sad? Yes, I
Mm.
was really sad. Was I hurt? Yes, I was hurt. And to
Mm.
be able to say those things without feeling guilty, without
Mm.
feeling like I was a bad person, without, right?
Yes.
All of that stuff, digging deep into it, extracting it, and then learning to forgive and let go
Mm.
was
Yeah.
truly, and it has always been a beautiful healing for me.
Yeah.
Because if I think back to all the things I've ever been through, even the negative situations, which were really blessings in disguise,
Yes.
almost every single time, I was probably harder on myself than anybody else was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I'm a big proponent of people really just understanding that happiness is truly an inside job.
Mm.
You are the one who has the ability to create your own happiness, to create your own livelihood, to create your own success.
Mm.
Don't necessarily rely on others, because you're going to get good and bad. You're going to get people that tell you you're wonderful. You're going to get people that tell you you're awful.
It's so
But if
true.
you know at the core of your being that you are a good person, that you have what it takes to
Mm.
become successful, that's what matters.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, there's two people, right? And those two people are you and God, or
Right.
your higher power, whoever you conceive it to be.
Yeah.
That's what's left at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I always, so one of the sayings that I have is always, you know, so long as I can still go before God and look myself in the face in the mirror, then I'm all good.
That's
You know.
exactly what I say, even
Yeah.
to this day. And I love
Yeah.
it. I love that we have that in common. And I
Yes.
think there's a lot of people that can understand that,
Yeah.
right? It's like, if I can lay my head down on the pillow at night
Yeah.
with a clean conscience, and I
Yeah.
know that I've done everything I can to be a good
Yeah.
person in the world, to try to help someone, even if I may have gotten a little grouchy or angry or frustrated. I'm human,
Yeah.
but let me forgive that now.
That's it.
Let me atone for that. Let me just forgive it and let
Yeah.
me move on and be grateful for what I
Absolutely. And just hearing you, I think makes it so clear, even where some of like the titles of your anthologies come from, you know, the art of
have.
unlearning, and like just I feel like I have such a deeper understanding of you, you know,
Yeah,
and your journey, and you know,
same.
even what has like led into that
Hmm.
pathway, you know, as well. But you know, for those who kind of don't know about, you know, your anthologies and stuff, could you just explain what they are,
Yeah.
how they've come about, and you know,
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'm super excited because you are going to be an author in one of them, which is amazing.
yeah.
So last year, about a year and a half ago, I had this title, The Art of Unlearning, in my
Yeah.
mind ever since I became a coach.
Mm.
I don't know why, it was just something that stuck with me.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to do like a radio show or if I
Yeah.
was going to do a book. I just didn't know what way it would manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it popped into my mind, and I reached out to a business partner and I said, hey, you know how to get the book writing done. That's your forte.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to help women become more confident and to be more visible. Let's team up.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, we created the Art of Unlearning anthology series.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now moving into volume 3, which you will be a part of.
Yeah.
Volume 1 was an amazing experience. It was filled with adventure, and it really addresses all of the anthologies, even though they have different subtitles. They
Yeah.
all address that unlearning process that needs to take place when you're into adulthood or even early
Mm-hmm.
adulthood,
Yeah.
because as you're growing up, there are so many influences on you: parents, teachers, peers, coaches, religious leaders,
Yeah.
people who are telling you who you are, how you
Mm-hmm.
are, what you need to do, how
Yeah.
you need to behave, what you should be doing. And somewhere along the way, you lose your sense of, I'm okay just the way I am.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm a good person. I'm okay. But I mean, it starts from the time we go to grade school, right? We all fear that big red X, right? That big
Yes.
red mark.
Yeah.
It's like ingrained in us, right? And so my thought and my theory behind even the coaching I do is that we really do need to talk about why it is you feel where you're at right now.
Mm.
But let's do it even better. Let's undo it all. Let's unlearn it all and then
Mm.
reteach ourselves what we
Mm.
weren't given.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, and that's really where that comes from. And being able to give women a voice who
Mm.
otherwise wouldn't be able to share on that level
Yeah.
is truly what I love about the anthologies. And we're going to
Mm.
keep doing them. We've said we're the chicken soup of the soul for, women's anthologies. And that's how we intend to continue going.
Amazing stuff. And I have to say, I'm still reeling. I'm just like deeply honored to be a part of all of it, because
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on there. You've got such a
yeah.
wealth of knowledge and everything. And I can't wait for you to share. So.
Oh, thank you. Like, and I think that's one of the things also that we have in common as well, just our love for women and that upliftment and the empowerment, that it's so needed, so necessary.
Yes. And the other thing too is that, we have decided, my business partner and I, that all profits, which are taken out, of course, after
Yeah.
taxes and payments and things like that, administrative stuff. But the money's earned on that, we donate to an international organization
Mm,
that provides microloans and micro funding to women entrepreneurs all around the world.
which is
And
beautiful.
so that organization is called kiva.org.
Mm,
And they're very reputable, very much, you know, a, a great, a great resource for
mm,
women who really just need a helping hand, a leg up just to get their businesses started.
yeah.
And we decided right from the get-go that that's what we would do with our
Mm,
profits. So it's like fueling this cycle of giving and receiving
receipt,
constantly.
yeah. Yeah. Would you have any sort of tips and tricks for women who are wanting to do the same, maybe start their own sort of author's journey or.
Their own author journey?
Mm,
Yeah. I mean, I know for myself that the way I got involved with even writing
mm,
was to join an anthology. That's what I did when I first wanted to get my story out
mhm.
because I didn't quite know like how to do it.
Sure.
Um, but if you know that there's a story inside of you or there's a book inside of you that needs to come out, if nothing else, make sure that you are journaling, you're writing
Mm,
some pages.
yeah.
You can always come on board. Like we're running volume 4 as well, right? Like
Mm,
volume 4 hasn't been filled yet, but we have a wait list for
yeah.
volume, wait list for volume 3. So now those people will go on to volume 4.
That's so
I'm
good.
always up for helping people to
Yeah.
write their story. And I now have, business partners and a whole team who can make that happen and a really high success rate as well.
Mm,
But if you have a story to share, try even getting it into online blogs.
yeah.
Right? We
Absolutely.
talk about guest posting,
Yeah.
you know, um, pitch to some of whether it's an editor or, whoever's in charge for a particular
Mm,
blog you might
mhm,
like, something like that. That's a
mhm.
place to start sharing.
Yeah.
Sharing your story, and the more comfortable you get,
Yeah.
then maybe it's time to turn it into a book.
I like that.
Maybe it's time to turn it into a master class or a video series.
Mm,
Doesn't
mm.
always have to be the written word, right? It could
That's
be a spoken
true.
word.
Yeah.
But don't hide your stories and never look back on anything you've gone through with shame
Yeah.
or regret, or
Yeah.
because all that does is hold you back further and
It's true.
punish you for something that you've already dealt with.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it also it stopped me, I think, a lot from actually being able to help those who needed me, who I am actually assigned to.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're walking in shame or fear, we become not out of malice, but just kind of so self-centered that we don't see actually that we're here to serve and that actually we can, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Amazing. And so just to end, I was just going to ask you, I tend to write about, the women of the Bible, female empowerment, those sorts of things. And I was just wondering whether or not you have a favorite woman of the Bible, and if so, who and why?
that's a great question. And I've got to be honest with you. I can't say that I have a favorite woman of the Bible,
Yeah,
only because I've never thought about it.
fair enough.
So
Yeah.
it's not that I'm not familiar with the different characters,
Mm,
and the different actors, but I just haven't thought about it long enough.
yeah,
However, I will tell you that my my all-time favorite verse
yeah.
is from Philippians 4:13, which is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens
I
me.
love that one as well. Yeah.
And I literally feel like that one verse has saved my life
Mm,
repeatedly.
wow, that is powerful. And I can
So
see
much,
why.
yeah, so much so that I did actually have it inked on my body, on my lower back. I can't really show you.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I won't show you, but I do. I have a beautiful cross with
Lovely.
two butterfly wings coming off of it, and
Yeah,
then underneath it says Philippians 4:13, because
sounds
I,
beautiful.
I honestly feel like without God in my life, I truly believe I would not be here even
Yeah,
physically. I don't believe I would.
yeah. I understand that. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I think that's such a powerful verse and such a powerful reminder as well, you know. And so, what about if you had to finish this phrase? So, I am a Christian woman who is. What would you say?
I am a Christian woman who is both proud to be a Christian and to be a woman.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
think,
love that.
yeah, I mean, I don't really have any other adjectives to add on to it. It's just
Yeah.
that, like, I feel good saying that I'm a Christian, I'm a woman,
Hmm.
and maybe if I had to throw anything else in, it would be that I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the reason for that is because sometimes I know that I did, when I heard the word entrepreneur when I was younger and stuff, I always thought it meant someone who just made a lot of money,
Yeah.
but just they did it sort of off the backs of other people, right?
Sure.
That was my
Yeah.
assumption
Yes.
growing up.
Yeah.
And now for me to say, like, no, I'm a heart centered Christian coach who
Yes.
also works with other heart centered women entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? It's like that's totally okay. Those three can mesh.
They can mesh. They're not opposed. They're not
They're
contrary.
not mutually exclusive
Yes.
categories.
Absolutely. So true. And so if we had to kind of switch it around, so I'm a Christian woman who is not, what would you say?
Wow. I am not a Christian woman who is subservient to men in any capacity.
Another thing we have in common.
I'm just not. I'm like sorry, I'm independent and I'm strong, and yes, God is my rock and my savior,
Uh-huh.
but that's probably the only male figure that will ever have that kind of authoritative
Right.
status with me. I just, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty independent, I'm pretty bold, pretty
absolutely.
outspoken,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that goes against the grain of what we're taught in particular religions, but I
Yeah.
don't know. For me, I can be both.
Yeah, I was gonna say as well, and that actually that's not mutually exclusive either. God made you that way. He's also made me that way, and that's a good thing. That's cool. You know.
Exactly.
And so, do you have any other kind of words of encouragement for people, and let them know also where they can find you and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in closing, well, first off, I just want to say thank you. This was an incredible interview, and I
Oh,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
and your listeners. Um, I personally just want people to know no matter where you're at in whatever stage of your life, whether it's a difficult period, whether it's a great period of life,
Mm,
just understand and appreciate that moment for what it is,
yeah.
because you're either going to learn from it,
Hmm.
or it's going to be something that's the result of you
Mm,
going through something that you have
yeah.
learned,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
when things are good, they're good because you fought the good fight and you've won,
Absolutely.
right? So again, don't give up, and do not give up on God, and do not give up on yourself. Hold
Mm,
on to that hope, even if all you have is a pen. that
Yeah.
you can hold in your hand.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you can do that, you can make it from point A to point B.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And where can people find you? Where can they join all your social media and stuff?
They can find me all over the place because I'm a visibility strategist.
Right?
So I try to do a pretty good job at keeping myself out there in the limelight. Um, Honestly, the easiest way is to literally put my name into a Google search. And I
Mm,
truly mean that
yeah.
because you will find that, right, like my website will pop up, my Facebook page will pop up, my Instagram account will pop up, articles I've guessed, written on different blogs will
Yeah.
pop up. And however which way you feel you want to connect with me is the way I want to connect with you. So
Perfect.
if that's you get on my website and you call to book
Mm-hmm.
a call, great. If
Mm-hmm.
you wind up on Facebook and look at all the inspirational things that I've created over the years, great. Right. So honestly, put my name, Lisa Marie Pepe, in a Google box, hit the search button or the little voice command. I promise you I'll pop up.
Lovely. Yay, brilliant. I just thank you so much for, being here, for sharing all your pearls of wisdom. Like it's
Thank
been
you.
such a pleasure, honestly. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. So thank you for
Oh,
the opportunity.
you're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
How amazing was that interview? Now, if you were just as blown away as I was by all of Lisa Marie's kind of wisdom and pearls that she just shared, then definitely feel free to like and also share with somebody who you know needs to hear all of that as well. I would also love to hear what your biggest sort of takeaways and aha moments were. So feel free also to comment below and let's continue this conversation. And if you would love to see more interviews like this, or even some more sort of motivation and inspiration from myself, in terms of what I share about, becoming the woman that God has ordained you to be, then also consider hitting the subscribe button below. And don't forget to hit the bell because then you'll get notified as I upload videos week by week. Okay, guys, you take care and thank you so much for watching. Bye.